study and very useful one. I just wonder how you defined the misuse. As I understood, you had several items.
Yes.
And then the dichotomous variable of misuse, as you use logistic regression.
Yes.
So you combined and used cutoff point or...
Yes. I have
Okay.
5 questions, which are yes or no questions. If the participants answer to that questions and they say that they use usually for that condition, they were taken as a misuse during the misuse people, and there were 5 questions that define the misuse, and we came up with the final variable which shows that even if one of the questions were answered yes, this variable was understood as the misuse.
And what was the prevalence of misuse?
About 57% of the study participants misuse the antibiotics.
Thank you very much.
Thank you too.
Thank you for the presentation. I have a question. You said that the knowledge score didn't predict the misuse. So I wonder how you asked these questions, whether participants could check several response options or just one they consider the true.
For that domain, we have 10 questions for the knowledge score, and each of them have agree, don't agree, or don't know answer options. So based on these questions and answer options, their knowledge score was defined.
Also another question, what do you think could be the reason of another discrepancies with the international literature, the fact that trusting doctors leads to the antibiotic misuse?
Yes, it's opposite from the literature, and this could be explained by 2 factors actually. If physicians are over-prescribing here or prescribing for the conditions that they should not prescribe, or using too long or too short duration of the treatment, this could lead to mistrust. And also, as I think this is the explanation for that.
Are there any studies about
physicians misprescription? So I think that it would be very interesting if you discuss this in the discussion, if there is any evidence to support this idea that actually it may come from the physicians.
Actually, yes, there are studies, not in Armenia, they are internationally that define this problem, but in Armenia we don't have data regarding this topic.
Thanks, very interesting study.
Actually, I just remembered that Bob McPherson has done some study on inappropriate prescription of antibiotics. You may remember we were still students. He looked for antibiotic prescriptions for the viral infections among children. It's an old study, but perhaps you could use it for your discussion. It should be on our website. The CHSR website, earlier reports from 98, 99. Check that, it might help you to describe this issue in your discussion section.
Thank you.
You mentioned about intended self-medication. Could you explain for the audience what it means?
Yeah, in the prior study that was done in 2005, there were questions that covered whether people are doing self-medication or whether they will do the self-medication. So in the study that was done, if they answer to the questions that they will use, they will do the self-medication, this was as an intended self-medication.
You also mentioned that majority of your participants were female. Did you notice those who refused to participate? Were they male or female?
Mainly males, but I didn't done the analysis for that. But we have males and females. It actually differs from interviewer to interviewer. I actually have most females that didn't answer, but some of our interviewers have the opposite, like the females were.
Your mean age was very interesting, 69. Does it mean that the population gets older or something?
I would suggest that you also look at the median age. That
What
might be
time
helpful.
I was just about to ask about the mean age. At what times were you making your calls?
All day.
Like majority was it in the evening or during the daytime? Because I mean, based on the time, that means those people, some certain people are not at home; they're at work. So maybe that's what affected the age, the old people that don't work. Maybe that's the reason.
Actually, she did
just
call some.
clarify that in the paper, your method section, you can mention at what times of days the calls were being made, so that the readers don't ask these types of questions. Okay? Thank you very much. So our next speaker is Zaruhi Arakelian.
Thank you for the introduction, and good afternoon, dear friends and colleagues. My thesis project is about knowledge, attitude, and practice of healthcare providers who may come in contact with women who have experienced intimate partner violence. It was a qualitative research. First I will provide you some information from the literature, then I will discuss methods, results, and discussions, and then we will proceed to the recommendations for the study. Intimate partner violence is the most common type of violence against women, and Center for Disease Control and Prevention describes intimate partner violence as a physical, sexual, or psychological harm by a current or former partner or spouse. IPV exists along a continuum from a single episode of violence to ongoing battering. And it is a very prevalent issue. According to WHO multi-country report, prevalence of women ever experienced violence varies from 13 to 59%, and prevalence of women who have experienced intimate partner violence varies from 22% to 47%, depending on the country. In addition, I would like to add that 30% of women have experienced some form of physical or sexual abuse by their partner worldwide. IPV has some health-related adverse outcomes, and WHO divides those in four major sections, which are physical, reproductive, sexual, mental, and behavioral. In the physical sections, we identify acute or immediate injuries, serious injuries, poor health status, and death, also including AIDS-related death. Reproductive sexual section includes unintended, unwanted pregnancy, abortion, unsafe abortion, which are could be consequent to each other, sexually transmitted infections, pregnancy complications, miscarriages. In mental section, there are depression, post-traumatic stress disorder, including eating and sleeping disorders, self-harm and suicide attempts, and behavioral section includes harmful alcohol and substance use, multiple sexual partners, and choosing abusive partners later in life. Healthcare is the sphere where it is most possible to early identify the victim, and abused women are more likely to communicate with health specialists than with any other professional agencies. Emergency departments are the first to be contacted in case of the severe IPV. Also, general practitioners, due to their practice, have the opportunity to see all the members of the family, and so potentially they can identify the family violence. When talking about the situation in Armenia, the most important points to stress are the absence of law on domestic violence and the lack of data. The National Statistical Service of Republic of Armenia in 2008 conducted a study according to which among ever partnered women, approximately 9.5 have ever experienced physical or sexual violence. Approximately 25% have experienced psychological violence, and 61 were subjected to controlling behavior, such as stalking. There are two existing shelters for female victims of domestic violence, which are maintained by the NGOs. There are other NGOs which are focusing on domestic violence again, but their work is mostly focused through hotlines and consultations by the social workers, legal entities, and so on. There was a strategic action plan on combating gender-based violence, which should be implemented by 2015. According to that plan, there should be special centers for victims, law and domestic violence, special social, medical, and legal support services provided to the victims of gender-based violence, but unfortunately, by this moment, nothing is yet implemented. There were no prior studies describing the knowledge, attitude, and practice of Armenian health providers who get in touch with victims of IPV, and this study will help to develop a view on Armenian clinicians' preparedness of identifying and working with the sensitive population. The research questions for the study were as follows. What are the knowledge, attitude, and practices of general practitioners, gynecologists, obstetricians, and emergency department clinicians in Yerevan, Armenia regarding intimate partner violence, as they may come in contact with women who have faced intimate partner violence? What are the barriers and facilitators for general practitioners, gynecologists, and obstetricians, and emergency department clinicians to identifying intimate partner violence victims in Armenia, Yerevan? To conduct the study, qualitative cross-sectional design was used with direct content analysis. Semi-structured study guide was used during the in-depth and focus group discussions. With the help of convenience within purposive sampling technique, general practitioners from Yerevan polyclinics, gynecologists, obstetricians working in Yerevan hospital and as well in polyclinics, clinicians working in the emergency department of Yerevan hospitals with ambulance services, were approached. All of the participants were fluent in Eastern Armenian. The study guide was divided into three main domains, which were knowledge, attitude, practice, barriers and facilitators, future direction, and closing. In line with the study guide, the vignettes were used, which were generated based on a study on domestic violence conducted in Armenia previously. AUA-IRB approved the study protocol. So, for the data collection, 4 polyclinics were approached. One of them refused to participate, and 3 focus group discussions were conducted in polyclinics with 45 min duration of interviews. 3 in-depth interviews were conducted in the hospitals with 41 min duration of interviews. In order to complete the data analysis, audio records were directly transcribed from Armenian to English. Textual data was manually analyzed, and coding by words, meaningful phrases, and sentences of responses was used, which helped to identify categories and common patterns emerged from the data. So there were overall